Madam Secretary. Good to be back in the briefing room. I just want to put this effort in the context of our broader relationship with Mexico. This partnership between the United States and Mexico is as important as any bilateral relationship that we have, and it extends not only to these critical questions of counter-narcotics and law enforcement, but of the full range of issues that engage our two countries. And as Robert said, this is part of what has been a very clear effort by this administration from the beginning to build and strengthen that partnership, beginning with the President's meeting with President Calderon before inauguration, carrying on that very important, very special tradition, to the Secretary's visit tomorrow to Mexico, where she will be engaged with President Calderon and her counterparts, talking about not only our partnership in dealing with crime, law enforcement, and counter-narcotics, but some of the broader issues that engage our two countries, dealing with the G20 summit that's coming up, where Mexico will be a key partner, the UN Security Council, where Mexico sits on the Security Council, the upcoming Summit of the Americas, climate change, another area where Mexico has taken an important leadership role. And so we have a very rich agenda with Mexico. But one of the things that clearly has been important to both countries is this deep partnership to deal with the problems of narcotics, law enforcement, and violence. It's a partnership that began clearly in the previous administration with the Merida Initiative, which is a comprehensive partnership between the two countries to deal with a full range of issues associated with crime and violence along the borders and in Mexico, and represented a profound and strategic commitment by President Calderon to address these deep challenges, which not only affect us here in the United States, but profoundly affect the safety and security of citizens in Mexico. That partnership really is quite comprehensive. It deals not only directly with the border issues that Secretary Napolitano had talked about, but more profoundly with the law enforcement and criminal justice system in Mexico, dealing with legal reform, dealing with issues of corruption, dealing with issues of strengthening the capacity of the Mexican state to meet these challenges, which are so important to our common well-being. It's an effort that has been supported by the Congress on a bipartisan basis. It is an effort that involves almost every agency in the federal government. The State Department has played a key role as the chair of the high-level Merida Group, which brings together all of the key agencies in our government with their counterparts in Mexico. But it also extends to dealing with some of the systemic challenges that Mexico faces as it deals with the crime and drugs problem, including creating economic opportunity, strengthening education in Mexico, bringing technology to bear on both sides of the border to deal with these challenges. And so it really is quite a unique and comprehensive set of engagements that really represents an important commitment by both of us to deal with this problem that challenges us all. And it's something that we deal with not only bilaterally, but also in a regional context with the core Central American countries, which are also an important component of addressing this problem, as well as a number of the countries in the Caribbean. So let me turn it over to David.
Thank you, Jim. Under the President's leadership and together with the State Department and DHS, the Department of Justice stands ready to take the fight to the Mexican drug cartels. We're all concerned about the increased levels of violence in Mexico, and we very much admire the courage and resolution of our Mexican counterparts who are bravely confronting these cartels in their own backyard. And we're resolved to do everything we can to work together with them to destroy these criminal organizations. For more than a quarter century, U.S. law enforcement agencies have recognized that the best way to fight the most sophisticated criminal enterprises is through intelligence-based investigations to target the greatest threats. Under the leadership of the Justice Department, the command and control of La Cosa Nostra, which was once the most powerful organized crime group operating in the United States, has been effectively dismantled with many of its most senior leaders behind bars. Built on this same approach and together with our Mexican counterparts, the Department's Mexican cartel strategy confronts those cartels as criminal organizations rather than simply responding to individual acts of violence. That strategy is carried out by prosecutor-led, intelligence-based task forces that bring together all DOJ and DHS and other relevant law enforcement agencies to disrupt and dismantle the drug cartels through investigation, prosecution, extradition of their leaders, and the seizure and forfeiture of their assets. As we've found with other large criminal groups, if you take their money and lock up their leaders, you can loosen their grips on the vast organizations that are used to carry out their criminal activities. Attorney General Holder and I are committed to taking advantage of all department resources and those of associated agencies to target the Mexican cartels. We will investigate and prosecute the criminals who smuggle drugs into the United States and distribute and sell them in our cities and towns. We will also investigate and prosecute those who smuggle guns, bulk cash, and contraband from the United States to Mexico. Just last month, the Attorney General announced the arrest of more than 750 individuals on narcotics-related charges under Operation Accelerator, a multi-agency, multinational effort that targeted the Mexican drug trafficking organization known as the Sinaloa Cartel. Through Operation Accelerator, prosecutors and federal law enforcement agencies, led by DEA, delivered a significant blow to the Sinaloa Cartel by seizing $59 million, hundreds of firearms, and more than 12,000 kilograms of cocaine and 12,000 pounds of methamphetamine. A similarly sweeping DOJ-led initiative against the Gulf Cartel, announced in September 2008, called Project Reckoning, produced similarly dramatic results. The President has directed us to take action to fight these cartels, and Attorney General Holder and I are taking several new and aggressive steps as part of the administration's comprehensive plan. Those steps include the following. DOJ's Drug Enforcement Administration, which already has the largest U.S. drug enforcement presence in Mexico, with 11 offices in that country, is placing 16 new DEA positions in Southwest border field operations, specifically to target Mexican trafficking and associated violence. The DEA is also deploying 4 new mobile enforcement teams to specifically target Mexican methamphetamine trafficking, both along the border and in U.S. cities impacted by the cartels. DOJ's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is increasing its efforts by adding 37 new employees in 3 new offices, using $10 million in Recovery Act funds, and redeploying 100 personnel to the southwest border in the next 45 days to fortify its Project Gunrunner, which is aimed at disrupting arms trafficking between the United States and Mexico. ATF is doubling its presence in Mexico itself, from 5 to 9 personnel working with the Mexicans specifically to facilitate gun tracing activity which targets the illegal weapons and their sources in the United States. DOJ's Office of Justice Programs is investing $30 million in stimulus funding to help state and local government and law enforcement combat narcotics activity along the southwest border and in high-intensity drug trafficking areas. Additionally, the state and local law enforcement in those areas can apply for COPS and burn justice assistance grants, a total of $3 billion of which were provided in the stimulus package. DOJ's Organized Drug Enforcement Task Forces program, or OCDEF, is adding personnel to its strike force capacity along the southwest border. And the FBI is stepping up its efforts in the region by creating a Southwest Intelligence Group, focusing its activities on, increasing its focus on public corruption, kidnappings, and extortion related to the cartel's activities. As the department did in dismantling La Cosa Nostra, these new resources will build on the framework already in place to disrupt and dismantle the Mexican drug cartels.